stakeholders in different sectors.
Wasn't that the reason why your party
we have been fighting corruption in Nigeria since Nigeria was declared an independent country.
Join me, Femi Olamide, your host on Front Talk, 9 to 10 a.m. every weekday on Rave 91.7 FM, where we have frank discussions and give you quality talk. Always.
You know, it's on record.
Hold it. When it came on board, let's turn it on.
Relax and unwind because we're going live. 91.7 Wave FM.
Beautiful morning to you. Thank you very much for joining us once again, starting your week with us right here on Rave 91.7 FM, where we define every bit of your moment. It's that exciting radio for all ages. We bring you amazing music and we spice it up with quality talk all of the time. My name is Femi Olamide. Happy New Week to you. Thank you very much for finding time again to join us here on the program Frank Talk, where we look at trending issues and the polity. We bring these issues closer to help you to have a better understanding and have deeper insight of the issues happening within our polity. Like we say, we look at politics and we look at policies. Politics as played by our political leaders and our politicians, and policies as mapped out by our policy makers. Today we are looking at a report that came to public domain, some days back. The Nigeria Extractive Industries Transparency Initiative, NIAT, made known a report, the latest quarterly review of the Federation Accounts Allocation Committee, FAC, by NIAT. That report is the third in the series and examined the breakdown and analysis of disbursements from the Federation account to the three tiers of government. Also looked at the debt profile of some of the states right here in Nigeria, and then in a way it affects us also here in Oshun, because Lagos State was said to have the highest debt of 603.25 billion of all Nigerian states in 2013, as against its revenue of 410.5 billion. Delta State rather came second with 331.95 billion naira debt, as against 142.28 billion of its revenue, and Oshun State took third place with 165.9 billion naira, while Akwa Ibom State were placed fourth in that particular report, 161.23 billion naira. And according to that report, Yobe and Anambra stood out clearly as states with the least debt burden, while Yobe was indebted to the tune of 11.74 billion naira. Anambra State owed just 20.60 billion, according to the NIAT FAC report there. Well, this report was released by Dr. Oji Ogbonaya Oji, Director Communications of NIAT, and like I said, it was made known in that latest quarterly review of the Federation Accounts Allocation committee FAC. Well, let me get started now. Let me introduce my guest to you. Dr. Tunji Ogunyemi is a legal practitioner. He's also an economic historian. He's of the Faculty of Art at Bafemi Awolowo University, Ife. Thank you very much for joining us on the program this morning, Dr. Ogunyemi.
Thank you, Femi.
Nice to have you again. And I'm joined also by retired Justice Olamide Oloyede. Thank you very much for joining us right here on the program this morning, ma.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much. Well, let's get started with Dr. Ogunyemi. You must have seen the report also in the 80. This is the third in the series, a quarterly review of the Federation Accounts Allocation Committee, FAC. And Lagos State placed first, Delta second, Osun is third. For people in this climb, Osun State will be their own main concern. What do you make of that report, just to start with?
I'm not surprised. I'm not surprised that Laity they were not primarily concerned with the issues of budget or the issues of debt management in Nigeria. But of course, also a financial, agency in Nigeria that is interested in the extractive industry. But only that, it's also interested in transparency. And so, it is not unusual to have this kind of a report to actually show. It's an expose of the exact financial burden and the status of such burden in the state of the Federation.
Well, that report, expressed concern about the ability of the state, about the position of the state, saying that when you look at the debt profile and the revenue that comes to, those states, that is just nowhere near where it should be, and raises serious concerns about that.
I'm not troubled about that at all. Simple macroeconomic issues has shown that what you look at is not the absolute figures of the debt profile of a state. What you look at is the percentage of that debt related to the GDP. That is, debt ratio to the GDP, the gross domestic product. And the World Bank, of course, has advised that your GDP debt ratio should not exceed 45%. And now, Osun State indebtedness is only 16.7% of its GDP. It's absolutely within safe standards. Absolutely. In fact, I'm surprised that it is Laity that is bringing this issue. I mean, that's not the Laity's primary concern. It's in the extractive industry. It should be the Debt Management Office of the Federation. This is headed by Dr. Abraham Nwankwo, a very capable man. Well, but then, I think the alarm is necessary at this level. Maybe probably to warn us that we must not fall further into this debt trap.
Well, we'll come to that. You said 16% at the moment.
It's just 16%.
Okay, we'll come to that later. But let's get to Justice Olamide Oloyede. You wrote a petition about the state finances sometimes back. Looking at these latest reports now and the concern that report raised, do you feel justified in a way about what you wrote then now?
Well, as a matter of fact, nobody, no indigenous of Osun can be happy or justified because the state has accumulated such a heavy debt burden. However, I can honestly tell you that I will be relieved if the amount reported by Laity reflects the actual indebtedness of Osun State. But I doubt it very much, and I have my reasons. You will recall that in the year 2015, when I wrote that petition, the Debt Management Office declared that Osun was not indebted. And today, Laity is coming out to tell us that Osun's debt overhang is worrisome. So something is not clear. Something needs to be clarified at that point. But my argument has always been this. It is not that one cannot be indebted. It is that when you take a loan, at least there must be project to justify the loan, the quantum of loan that you have taken. Then, as a good manager, an astute administrator, that you projected yourself to be before people embraced and voted you into office, you must take cognizance of the revenue of the state, the capacity of the state to bear the burden before you load the state. What are the sources of revenue available to Osun. We know how paltry our internally generated revenue is. We largely depend on federation account allocation from Abuja to survive. And that is why NAITI is involved, because what comes from Abuja is part of the oil proceed. And you know oil is an extractive, belongs to the extractive industry. And NAITI's responsibility is to let Nigerians know that what we are taking, these wasting resources that we are extracting, it is an exhaustible resource, oil. How are we using it for sustainable development?
Permit me to cut in here. You talked about that even the 165.91 billion naira. You said that you hope that is the real figure. Do you believe, like some people are banding around, that the figure is in the region of 320 billion naira? Do you have any other figure, or do you think that figure that is being quoted is the one?
Are you telling me that NAITI has reflected the salary deficit being owed Osun State workers?
You think we should factor that one into it also?
Have they factored in liability to retirees? Have they factored in liability to contractors? Are you sure that is the actual figure? There are so many things. I think essentially NAITI is concerned with maybe federation allocation and all, some money. I don't think it is all the debt that is reflected. I doubt it very much. And the state government itself has not been forthcoming. They keep giving us varying figure. I could recall that at the time when my petition became public, they alleged that they were owing 80 million, that they were not owing anywhere near the figure I quoted. I didn't actually cite any figure. I said there are rumors that Osun's liability was in the region of 400 to 500 billion at the material time. Now, don't forget the fact that since then, Osun has received 2 bailouts in the region of about 50 or 60 billion. The Paris Club refund has since come. Allocations have been coming. At a point in time, Osun had a deficit allocation because it has been paying back. So in the last 2 years or thereabout, Osun, if we take it that Osun has paid at least 200 billion as part of the loan refund, then that means that I couldn't have been very far from the figure.
Dr. Ogunyemi, like you said earlier on, the concern for many people here is about Osun State. And like Justice Oloyede said, that what we hope that the 165 billion naira figure pushed forward by NAITI here is the total sum. She's saying that, well, this could just be maybe for oil, which is, an extractive industry stuff here. Looking at this particular one, the concern of the average person on the street of Osun is our future mortgaged? Is the future of the state mortgaged by this debt overhang?
No, it is not mortgaged, and there's no problem. In fact, there is no cause for alarm at all. When we speak about debt and indebtedness in Nigeria, where should we look for information? That's the question. Now, we should look for information from the Debt Management Office, DMO.
But
that is the most authoritative.
At some point, DMO was said to have said that Osun had no debt. Do we still believe what comes out of the DMO?
We must absolutely believe, because the DMO manages even the sovereign debt of the federation, even from the federal government. And the debt details are not rocket science. We can even get it from the releases, the statistical bulletin of the Central Bank of Nigeria, which is released annually. Unfortunately, the one for 2016 has not been released. But we have the one for 2015. And the indebtedness status of the Nigerian nation and the states within it are stated there. There's no problem about that. In fact, let me go historical a little so that we can get an expose about this issue.
Okay.
Number one is that the Federation of Nigeria exited its own sovereign debt in 2006 to the Paris Club, about 30 billion American dollars. And therefore, what remained for the Federation of Nigeria was about 2 billion American dollars to exit to the foreign debt, to the foreign creditors. But it has also piled up domestic debt of 2 trillion naira. 2 trillion naira. And this 2 trillion naira has increased from that 2006 today to about 7 trillion naira. Now, 7 trillion naira is exactly Nigeria's budget this year. This year we have 7.229 trillion naira. That's to show you the level of indebtedness at the federal level. Now, at the state level, the level of indebtedness of the states are diverse. For example, the statistics given by the NEITI, that's what I told you, that it is not the NEITI's, it is not within its province to be giving statistics about indebtedness really, because we can fault it. However, it is also a way of exposing, of showing some information, generally speaking, about what could have been coming from the federation account of what the CBN might have reported. So what NEITI is reporting really is a secondary information. But the primary information from the CBN statistics is actually that Osun State, for example, is indebted. That is together with salaries that are not being paid, liabilities of pensions, and some Fadama projects that the state had borrowed money for, including Sukuk loan. There's a loan called Sukuk that the government took in the year, I think 2013. That's about 62 million American dollars, which translates to something about 10 billion naira as at that time, because the exchange rate was far better then. Now, the total indebtedness of Osun is 203 billion 151 million 879,799 naira and 50 kobo. That's exactly what Osun is showing by the CBN statistics. Now, what NEITI has shown is the indebtedness of the state beginning from, indebtedness of the state excluding the liabilities for unpaid salaries, pensions liabilities, and some other loans that the state had. For example, the state had to get bailout funds from the federal government. So you had this to it. To the extent that even in 2006, by April 2006, what the state actually, when the state wanted to refund some money, he actually had negative, minus, in April of 2016. To show that when she was paying back 2.1 billion out of the 2.3 billion she actually owed the federal government, the state came back with nothing in April of 2016. But when you put all these together, what Osun is actually owing, if you do not add, because you cannot be adding liabilities or salaries to existing debt, because they are on the recurrent basis, because the current budget will be able to settle that. So if we go by the latest statistics, and I told you it's not accurate, but it is close to believable, is that Osun is about 165 billion naira that we have now, or 166 if you like. 165.9 is about 163 billion naira. So 163 billion naira, generally speaking, is small money that she's owing compared to the gross domestic product of the state.
So, Dr. Ogunyemi, many people will tell you and say, you said it's not something to worry about.
It's absolutely
At a point in time, the state got a deficit in allocations, minus. Actually, the state accounts was minus when you look at the FAC allocations coming in, and many people have said this is the basic reason, some people argue, why the state is unable to pay salaries or meet its financial obligations. Now, you said it's not that much of a concern to the state.
Since John Maynard Keynes's philosophy in 1936, when it comes to jumpstarting the economy of a state, you don't look at the quantum of the income, the quantum of the debt of the state relative to its income. What you look at is the debt ratio to the GDP, that is the total gross domestic product of that state, relative to its strength to be able to pay back. Because the money that the state is owing, actually, they are invested. Much of that money is invested in capital projects that will not turn out returns immediately. For example, what is the return that will come from flyovers? The return that you expect to come from bridges and roads? These returns go directly into the economy of the state, and before the returns will be able to, pool and then pay back, it will take quite some time. So that is why you don't measure in absolute terms the indebtedness of a state relative to its revenue. No, if you were to do that, then the Nigerian state should have packed up, because the total amount of money we are owing now in dollars is 10 billion American dollars, and our total budget this year is something close, just about 12 billion American dollars. So we should, in the next 2-3 years, should have packed up. But nations are not measured that way, because Osun State cannot die. Osun State is not a human being that can just go bankrupt just like that. No. It is a state that has the assets, the people, the resources that are far, far above its liabilities in terms of indebtedness. Just go a little historical. Now, this state holds 126 billion naira as at 2010. 126 billion. So when the Sukuk loan came, so under the Arabicious regime, the Sukuk loan came and added to it, the debt moved significantly far from 126 billion to about 150. And then when the inability of indebtedness in terms of salaries and other things added, then it moved to about 200. But are you going to say that the assets of the state are just $200 billion? 200 billion naira? Put that in naira, in dollar terms. How much does it come to?
All right, let me get back to Justice Oloyede. Do you agree with Dr. Ogunyemi's position that we seem to just be raising a bedlam, just overbeating this particular issue? If you have to jumpstart economy of a state, there is to some extent you need to go this particular route. And if you look at some of the major investment that these monies are being channeled into, then there is basically no cause for alarm.
Thank you very much. What the learned doctor is saying, I appreciate, quite frankly. However, to the average person on the street, he's not going to feed on philosophy and economic theories. You agree with me that the average person on the street will not feed on economic theories. And the civil servant who needs his salary to take care of his family will not think along the reasoning that doctor has just given us now, that it is a long-term thing. It is a long-term thing. You have to survive to experience the benefit that would come from bridges in 20, 30, 50 years. I've always said it. The Constitution confirms it that the business of governance is security and welfare. And I insist that welfare itself is that security. Without welfare, I don't have a sense of security. If you look globally now, governance is becoming an integrated thing internationally. That is why Nigeria took an active role in ensuring that Yahya Jammeh quit office when he insisted on maintaining his seat, despite losing in an election. Because the developed nations have realized that governance is an international thing. You cannot segregate world community. When the economy in Africa is bad, it affects them in Europe. The pressure, the refugee pressure, puts their own economy under intense pressure and makes them uncomfortable. It creates discomfort. You cannot govern any people in this world. Boundaries are an artificial creation. You see people moving en masse from an environment that is inconvenient and uncomfortable, moving towards environment where they can find succor. That's why Africans, people are pressuring Europe because their economy is stable. And when you allow the entire people in Africa to move into Europe, that is asking for calamity. Go to Hungary today. You see people locked up, refugees seeking asylum. Why are they doing that? Were they to be comfortable in their nation, will they become refugees? That is why we are having so much distortion in the world today. Conflicts. If your state is well governed, Yoruba, we say, Ile Somi, Konro Ajo. Let me give you something. Section 16 of our Constitution says, the state shall, within the context of the ideals and objectives for which provisions are made in this Constitution, harness the resources of the nation and promote national prosperity and an efficient, a dynamic and self-reliant economy. For every citizen on the basis of social justice and equality of status and opportunity. The state shall control the national economy in such a manner as to secure the maximum welfare, freedom and happiness of every citizen on the basis of social justice and equality of status and opportunity. Are you telling me that Osun people today are happy with the way their economy is managed? Are they really happy? Are you telling me that the civil servants are asking for minimum wage of 56,000 as of today, but cannot even earn 18,000? Are you telling me that the economy has been well managed? But
have you heard about argument by government and proponents of government that this is not about Osun alone? This is symptomatic of the Nigerian Federation. That it would be very unfair to isolate Osun in this particular matter and said the economy has been mismanaged.
I did not isolate Osun. Naiti said they are worried. Lagos is owing about how many billion?
600.
Naiti is not worried. Naiti never said I am worried about Lagos indebtedness. Neti says, I am worried about the indebtedness of Osun and another state. Remind me. Because Neti knows that Lagos has, if you read my petition all over again, you see that I said that it is not about loan or indebtedness. At that material time I was indebted, I am still indebted. It is about the wherewithal to meet your obligations.
You think Osun does not have the wherewithal to meet these obligations?
If it does, why is it owing salaries and pensions and gratuities? If it does, why is it owing salaries and pensions? Answer the question yourself.
Let Dr. Ogunyemi answer that question. Do you think Osun State has the wherewithal to meet these obligations?
Absolutely. See, Femi, look, there's certain things you consider. I'm not a politician. I'm a teacher. And therefore, I'm not likely to, to reply directly to our Lordship's position, whether Osun people likes or not. The only thing that I know for sure, as an economic historian, is that she has just quoted a part of the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, Section 16. Actually, the whole of that section is contained in Chapter 2 of that Constitution, which is called the Objectives and the Directive Principles of the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. It is the directive principle of state. But our Lordship knows that all the provisions that are contained there, social security and social welfare, are not even justiciable. You can't even sue government on it. You can't even say government should guarantee you education. And now, that's just to say that they are not justiciable reasons. They are not. You cannot go to court and say government should have constructed roads for you. Can you do that? But you now find a situation in which you have a government that has taken loan to do capital projects like 11 schools. I mean, I'm sure those people who had those modern schools are going to be very happy. Those of us who live in the very interior parts of Ile-Ife, where we see our roads that are well laid out, not in all parts of Ife, surely not in all parts, but where in Igboya, in Ele, where I live, we are happy. When we also see the beautiful cities and the urban renewal that is being done in Osogbo, I mean, Osun citizens are likely to be happy in those areas. But the question now is, look, debt management, it's not difficult. You know, John Kenamina Keynes and so many economists have argued that it is not that you are borrowing that is the problem. The issue is, to what do you commit what you are borrowing to? To what do you commit it? In other words, for what purposes are you borrowing? If you borrow to pay salary, that's extremely bad economics. You don't borrow to consume. You borrow to invest. And what has the state borrowed to do? It has borrowed to build schools. Took sukuk loans to build 11 modern schools in Bongon, in Osogbo, in Ile-Ife, in several places. And it has also taken loan to also empower citizens by feeding some primary school students, or pupils if you like. Now, it is capital project. Once you borrow to invest in capital project, you are borrowed to invest in tomorrow. And that is set to the economy.
But could those projects have been built or achieved without necessarily borrowing loans?
The Federal Republic of Nigeria is borrowing. In fact, in December last year, federal government borrowed to pay salaries. That's to show you the extent to which the economy of the state, of this country, are degenerating.
You know, some people
are picking up now.
Dr. Ogunyemi, you know, some people argue that the Osun is a civil service state, as it were, and that
just like Ekiti.
Okay, and that, you know, these loans, this debt overhang is the main reason why salaries are not being paid as and when due.
It is not true.
That, in a way, is a cycle that affects other people also on the street, not only the civil side.
No. You look at whether a state is managing its debt well or is not. If I've told you, what you need to look at is the debt to GDP ratio. That is, I mean, look, you need 100 million, let's say you know 100,000 naira to just pay to ensure that your children go to school. And then your total assets is about 1.6 billion. But you have just about 1 million naira or 10 million naira to pay for your students to schools. I mean, to go to school. Do you say that because that debt will add to your liabilities, you will not borrow? In fact, it is bad economics not to borrow.
Well, you know, in the argument of this Oloyede, that these are pure theories, that these doesn't resonate with the average man on the street.
Every practice you see in the world is built upon theoretical foundations. There is nothing practical in the world that is not founded on theories, including law, including communication, including physical, medical, anything is built upon theory. Some people must have thought about it. Human beings are thinking animals. And because we are thinking animals, we are the people who form the foundation of our lives through thoughts. It is stuff that move the world. Okay, you think it is only physical things that move Japan? Japan has no mineral, has no physical. I mean, there's no physical thing that to make Japan successful.
Before I get back to
Oloyede, she has the high city and the brain knowledge.
Is Osun, just in simple terms, is Osun managing its debt normally? Is it managing it as it should be managing it?
If the debt ratio, if the debt to GDP ratio in Osun is 16.2, if Osun has invested what she has borrowed in capital projects and not in the consumption part of this economy, then it has managed it well. Evidence has shown. In fact, the debt management office has shown that Osun has managed its debt perfectly well.
All right, one more question for you. You know, there is this argument about capital flight, about subcontractors here not being the local contractors who actually, some of these projects you said the state government has carried out. You know, is there a way that government could have allowed this debt to cascade down by giving some of these projects to local contractors and not those, as some people claim, who encourage capital flight, who come from outside of the state to carry out this project?
The economy of Nigeria is an integrated economy, and there is no part of it that can be isolated. I give you an instance. The beef you eat in Osun State, do you grow them in Osun State?
No, looking at the capital project that carried out in Osun State, would it have been better
I understand
given...
you, Femi.
Yes.
When you give capital project, this is just executive decisions. These are just policy issues. I mean, they're not strictly economics. But if we go to the streets, people who are also interested in who are actually doing this project. But you know, the choices of who should do a project is determined by three fundamental things. One, availability of funds. Two, technical knowledge. Technical knowledge. And then the third thing is what have you done before? Your history. The history of doing that thing before. Now, if you look at the total architecture of the civil engineering construction of Osun State, we agree with me that to do civil engineering construction in this state, the best thing is to look at those who have had the history of constructing in an environment such as ours. Those who have done it well before. And the governor or the government might have just chosen those who have done it well. That's well before. Oh. It's just normal.
Okay, let's get to Justice Oloyede.
Thank you. I would like to ask Doxco a question. He works with the OAU. Does he get paid as at when due? If you can answer that question to begin with, when was he last paid his salary? And was he paid half or in full? It is okay to theorize. It is those who wear the shoes that know where it pinches. Doctor just dismissed Chapter 2 of our Constitution has been just a directive of principle of state policies. But does he know that we vote based on actualization of that chapter? That people, when they come to government, swear to an oath that they are going to live exactly in accordance with achieving and actualizing those objectives stated in that chapter 2 that he just dismissed. And is he aware that section 14, subsection B says the security and welfare of the people shall be the primary purpose of government? I have never seen where bridges vote. It is human being that votes. This human being, the Constitution says that government is about their welfare and security. The Yoruba will say, "Bing pami oloshenkiri." If you are hungry, can you see a bridge? What is the bridge being constructed for? Cars are declining in Osun on a daily basis. I was listening to Rave FM last week. Bishop Adeoye says he can no longer ride his car. So who is going to ride the car? Who is going to use the bridge when everybody drop their cars at home? Even the GDP, he keeps on telling us about GDP. Is it not the same World Bank and an agency of the United Nations that says GDP, that told us that human beings are at the center of concerns for development? And they must live a life worth a dignified existence, not a subliminal, a periphery, a half-slave existence, where you cannot be sure of what your meals are coming from. Is it about bridges? When you campaign, do you campaign to bridges and schools? Are the schools going to vote? Can they even appreciate? Are the school conscious? He can say all this because he's earning his pay as at when due. He's not in the service of the state government. He doesn't know how it ought. He doesn't know what it feels like to wait months without hand and not be paid. You are building schools. Teachers are not being paid. The Yoruba will say that ọmọ tí a ò kọ́ ló máa ta ilé tí a kọ́. In whose interest are the schools being built? The results are coming out. We know the position Osun now takes. It is better to go to... I was going to write graduate record examination on Saturday. I studied with a teacher under a tree. I scored 293. Because I had food in my tummy. I could appreciate what he was teaching me. Had it been that Mr. Obire did not put food in my tummy, and you put me in a classroom, a fantastic, beautiful environment, can I even appreciate what the teacher is telling me? If the teacher is distracted, if the teacher is not paid, if he's not well motivated, what is he going to teach the student? You are talking about building. What kind of logic is that? Are buildings more important than the human being to whom you appeal when you want votes? Is that what you are saying, doctor?
But, Justice Oloyede, all of these also, some experts have argued that if we say we should keep at what we have within, the pulse of government, so we just be moving at snail speed. If you have to jumpstart the economy of a state, that all of these are pains for today, the gains are very near in the future.
Now,
Let me say something.
hold on before you respond. Doctor has carefully told us about the debt burden and that the GDP, I don't speak mathematical language, I speak facts. He has carefully neglected to tell us how much came into this Osun within the period under review. And whether that amount could have been spent, well managed, could have done just as well. Could have been used to build these schools, could have been used to give roads. We have been building Gbogan, Oshogbo Road now. I passed that road. 6 years. The area that has been finished between Gbogan and Oshogbo, maybe the road has not even extended as far as Odeomu. In 6 years. Investment. Look at the schools. The schools are being built for teenagers. They are using prefab backhoe to build. You know the energy of youth. Even when you build with blocks, they will destroy it because their temperament.
Okay. Let's get Dr.
It's choleric at that point in time.
Yes, let's get Dr. Ogunyemi now.
Thank you. Maybe we should contextualize what we are saying.
You should tell us how much came into Osun within that period.
Okay, Your Lordship. Maybe we should contextualize what we are saying. Within the context of the Nigerian capitalist economy. Then what our Lordship is saying may not hold any water. If we were to be having a socialist economy so like we had in the former Soviet Union, or that is being done now in North Korea, and evidence.
I'm not a socialist. I'm a welfarist.
Yes. Okay. Even if we are running a welfarist economy as we have in France, the total income of Osun State will still be inadequate to pay all the workers. It will be absolutely inadequate. Let me give one instance. Osun State's budget is just between 160 and 170 billion. Very, very small money. Now, between 160 and 170 billion, I tell you, 83% of that money goes into recurrent expenditure. Recurrent expenditure is the expenditure you pay for salaries, for wages and for overhead. Now, salaries, overhead, and wages do not grow any economy. Rather, they make it subsistent. What grows any economy is the capital investment in the capital project. Good roads, maybe our Lordship may not want to appreciate this. Good roads actually move the economy. It is not only the belly. It's not a belly full economy that moves the economy really. Otherwise, you will go back to the pristine period of subsistence economy in which you live from hand to mouth. But we haven't said that. You look at the ratio of the investment of the state's money in either capital project or recurrent project to be able to see whether the state is moving or not.
Dr. Ogunyemi, this is recurrent, you're talking about, workers have also argued that the bulk of the recurrent in a way also goes to service political office holders.
Of course, because the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria is structured in such a way that it is necessarily anti-people. Because our leaders consume more than half of what even goes to the recurrent project. And the Constitution says so. For example, let me give you an instance. The Constitution says it is compulsory for the President of the Federal Republic to appoint at least one minister per state. Is that not a waste? Can't the Federal Republic move around with 18 ministers? But all the states of the Federation must have at least one minister. That's fundamental. And when you have a minister, you have some officers beside it and things like that. Let me give one instance. Ondo State is about 30,000 more in population than Osun State. Ondo State has more population than Ondo State. 2006 census. Osun State has 13 local governments. Ondo State, that is richer, that's an oil producing state, has 18. That goes to tell you how much Osun State will spend on the current expenditure vis-a-vis Ondo. That means Ondo will have more leverage from more breathing space to invest in capital development and move its economy than Osun. Now, Ondo State, Osun State has one university, a state university, that has split them into 6 areas, creating them as rural amenities. Spending more money on that because you have to create 6 perimeter fences, 6 provosts, 6 this, 6 that. Now, Osun State is spending more on the current expenditure that's actually moving the economy. If I ask you, Femi, who are the people who earn this recurrent expenditure? There are just 72,000 people. And the population of Osun State, about 4 million. 3.8 really. But about 4 million. Just 72,000 people. Even if you attach 10 persons to one civil servant who earns that money, 720,000 people. What remains? What happens to the remainder 3.3 million? That is why this state has said no. All that we earn cannot go into consumption. There must be something reserved for capital development. And when you move on a good road, I tell you, it has value either to your leg or to your car. When your children go to a very good school, it has value to their future and the economy of the state in terms of human production or the production of high net worth individuals. That you may ever think of a bowl of a bar. If we are to go on a belly full a bar system, and maybe our lordship also thought that we had a smooth sailing. We always have a smooth sailing in the federal system. I tell you, there has never been a time in the last 14 months that we have been paid regularly in Obafemi University. We were paid the following month. I know my salary will come, but I know for sure that it is not in all federal establishments that all salaries are paid.
All right. Well, because we have to open the phone lines now, we'll just get a quick response from Justice Oloyede.
Now,
then we'll open the phone lines.
Incidentally, I'm here with the certain political, public, and judicial officer or office holder salaries and allowances amendment bill 2008. I don't know, something urged me to bring it. It is really not a question of ministers and their salary and the fact that we have 36 ministers, or the constitution says we should have 36 ministers minimum. The salary of a minister is how much? I have it here. It is less than 2 million in a month. That is not the issue. The issue is corruption. Nobody wants to be appointed a minister because of 2 million naira. It is what they take from the kitty illegally that is affecting our economy, not the number. And to tell me, I'm telling you that Osun State can be well managed. I don't know why I was prompted to do it. Two nights ago, because I couldn't really go to bed, I calculated what does it need, what Osun State needs. Osun State, as of today, to be managed effectively, needs 40,000 workforce. And if you put the minimum wage at 25,000 and the maximum, if there is no stealing from the kitty, let's say even the governor is paid 10 million, this state will run effectively and efficiently on 2.5 billion naira in revenue in a month without having to borrow a dime. That was why I embraced Governor Aregbesola when he came, because he told us that with the revenue that Osun was earning as at that time, which was less than 1 billion, he assured us that he will manage Osun efficiently, effectively, and turn it into a paradise, a mini paradise, a replica of paradise. How come today the same governor has turned around? I have no vendetta with him, but I like to hold people to their words. When you tell me something, because you can always hold me to my word. When I give my word, I will die keeping it. So, and I expect, maybe my shortcoming is that when you tell me something, I believe you, because I don't go out to deceive. So the problem is not about civil servant and what they earn. What do they earn? They earn pittance. It is what is taken illegally. Ghana just appointed 110 ministers the other day. I've been to Ghana. Is it not just slightly, maybe the size of Osun or Anoyo? What are we talking about?
Let's open the phone lines now. Okay. Maybe just a quick question. 30 seconds. Yeah.
Your Lordship, it is not true that it is not salaries, overhead, and the current budget that is hitting the system and taking money away from investment to. Because the recurrent budget of even the Federation of Nigeria this year is more than 50%.
Budget padding.
Yeah. the recurring budget of Osun State alone this year, last year, 2016, where we have data, was 79.6% of the total income.
So who got the money?
Just hold on, Femi. If you hand money, that means every 8 naira that comes to this state goes into consumption, and only 2 naira remain there for creating wealth. Look, you can't have a well-managed economy if you don't create wealth. And you create wealth by creating roads, by building bridges, by building schools, by building hospitals. That's how you create wealth.
Dr. Ogunyemi,
we work in this area.
We have to open the phone lines now. Phone lines have been buzzing all day, and then also we make use of our social media platforms, WhatsApp, and then Twitter and Facebook. Well, let's open the phone lines for you. We'd like you to keep your comments very short, simple, direct to the point, and then very civil.
You can now join the conversation by calling 0703-175-9177, 0703-175-9177, and 0902-427-3808. You can equally make use of our social media platforms. For WhatsApp, 0703-175-9173, 0703-175-9173. Twitter us at Rave917FM, and Facebook is Rave917FM. Do remember to turn down the volume on your radio set or move away from it. And please, let's keep our comments civil. Thank you.
Thank you very much for joining us. What's the name, where are you calling from?
This is Adini calling from Oloyede, Osun State.
Let's have our contributions quickly.
Yeah, we appreciate the governor for what he's doing. But what I observe, especially in the educational sector, is that the Osun State is going to really suffer in the future. These students have been displaced because we are trying to build a structure. Yoruba people say that these students have been mistaken. A lot of things has really happened. I think the government needs to watch that. They are not equal with their mates.
All right. Hello, good morning.
Hello, good morning.
Thank you for joining us. Where are you calling from?
My name is Lawas. I'm calling from Laos.
Let's have our contributions quickly.
Yeah, I want to thank that woman because I'm proud of him. Because, and then let me tell you something. I think Shola is the one that's for your state because the money that is going to, the money that is brought let me just talk like this, sir. By the time of June of Oyinola, he didn't borrow any money. And then this Shola is building school, is doing something. We are suffering this of state. We are all green.
All right. Okay, hello, good morning.
Hello.
I needed to turn down very so when you call. Hello, good morning.
Hello, good morning.
Thank you for joining us. Where are you calling from?
My name is...
I need you to turn down the volume of your radio set. Hello, good morning.
Hello, good morning.
Thank you for joining us. Where are you calling from?
Thank you. You're allowed to come from Osogbo.
Let's have contributions.
Especially I want to appreciate Justice Oloyede. Sincerely, you're making us proud there. I wish you have people that can stand to the truth. Now, thank God for Shola building roads, constructing schools and all bridges. Then we are saying that building schools is not that is bad, but people that will teach the students in the school, they are not being failed. They are not happy with it. What will they teach the students? That's the first thing. The second one, the road has been built. Yes, we accept that. Then the question is, how long will people that have been suffering for 8 months, 6 months, not having salary, and you expect them to pray for the government?
All right. Hello, good morning.
Hello, good morning.
Thank you for joining us. Where are you calling from?
Yeah, Mr. Law from Malaysia.
Let's have our contributions.
Firstly, this morning, I have to for all the analysis this morning. What's supposed to be the question the justice supposed to be asking is that of all these debts these states are into now, what are they doing with those loans being collected? Are they investing it on what is supposed to be invested on? Now, doctor was saying something the other time that you can never expect government to borrow money and using it to pay the worker's salary. Now, the government has been investing all these loans on capital projects, which is profitable, as according to doctor, and I appreciate that. So, for the lordship to be saying that salaries were being owned, and it's national issue.
Okay. Hello, good morning. Hello. Hello, good morning.
Hello, good morning.
Thank you for joining us. To know where you're calling from.
My name is Femi Abiodun from Osogbo.
Thank you for joining, Mr. Abiodun.
You see, our people, our leaders, they are lack knowledge. So what former Oloyede is telling us is that we should just develop our school at all. We're not supposed to have a school, to have a road at all. He said that's what he said he like to ride his car. I find that woman to just do go out. Just become a politician to contest for election, or maybe to become a governor. So maybe we see some work. How we do it well.
All right, thank you very much, Mr. Abiodun. Hello, good morning.
Hello, good morning.
Thank you for joining us. To know where you're calling from.
This is Bolaji from Ijigbo.
Bolaji from Ijigbo. Let's have a contribution.
Yeah, thank you. Please, I want to speak about the school that was being built or that are being built. You see, in 2014, I observed my teaching practice in a school. And in that school, there was no biology teacher. In 2016, I went back to that school, there was no biology teacher. And you expect people from that school to become medical doctor? And you are building school, is that normal? That is not normal. So I don't believe in building schools where there are no teachers. You know the number of teachers that retired in 2012. And they were not replaced. And what are you talking about? Thank you.
Thank you. Hello, good morning.
Hello, good morning.
What's your name? Where are you calling from?
David, I'm calling from Osogbo.
Your name again, please.
My name is David, I'm calling from Osogbo.
David from Osogbo.
I think the doctor is very, very correct this morning. You cannot just be borrowing to pay salaries. You don't borrow to consume. The proven fact that you borrow to invest. That's how economy grows. That's what I want to say now.
All right, thank you very much. Very straight to the point. Hello, good morning. Hello. Hello, good morning. Thank you for joining us. Where you're calling from?
My name is Oloyede.
Okay, let's have your contributions.
Yeah, please, I want the doctor to go back to an issue he talked about Ondo and Osun State. He said Ondo has a population that is about 30,000 more than Osun. Yet Ondo has 20 local government and Osun has 30. I expected him to have also raised the issue when the same state government started creating another 27 LCDs, increasing the recurrent that I talked about. He didn't talk about that. I said I was going to talk about it. That's one. Two, the lordship asked him a question concerning whether he's being paid regularly or not. And that was the same thing I told the other lawyer that came from Ife too. If you earn your own salaries and you see salaries as not being important in an economy, I guess that he should just have told the management of OAU to stop paying his salary for about 6 months. Let him then come back after to raise studio. Have him to bring his car, fuel his car, and now come and tell us the same story he's telling us now.
All right, thank you. Hello, good morning. Hello? Good morning.
Good morning.
Please turn down the volume of the radio set, please.
I already done that. Good morning.
What's your name? Where are you calling from?
Emmanuel from Minnesota.
Let's have our contributions quickly, please. You're the last caller.
I want to appreciate the effort of our mama in the studio. She's trying. And all of your glories that have been tarnished, God will give them back to you. I want to say, we are building...
I'm afraid we'll just have to get back to our guests now because of the time the phone line's buzzing very, very well. Let me get first to Justice Oloyede. Your final remarks and your reactions to the calls quickly now in 30 seconds.
My final remarks is to say that there are two worldviews today about what governance is. There is a worldview that follows the Machiavelli that says that development should be at the expense of people. There is the golden rule that says man, the law was made for man and not man for the law. Development is human-centered, should be human-centered. Any development that does not take into consideration the welfare, that does not place premium on the welfare of the citizen, it is retrogression. Not minding the number of roads that are tarred, not minding the number of schools that are elegantly dressed. It is just a sham. Hollow inside, a sounding brass, empty.
All right. Your concern is, at the moment, is good governance. How do we achieve this in the midst of huge indebtedness, and then how do we avoid this in the future, if that is still your stand?
Thank you very much. Enlightenment. The people need enlightenment. They need to be educated to know that this fundamental objective and directive principle of state policy, which today is not justiciable by virtue of a clause, section 66C of the Constitution, if they put sufficient pressure on the National Assembly, it can become justiciable. And as for that person telling me that if I want, I can join politics, why not? Am I not better qualified than those who are there? If you can't do the job, let those who can do it.
All right. Well, let's get to Dr. Tunji Ogunyemi now. Your final remarks.
Thank you. My final remarks. First of all, let me say that I sympathize with those people who have not received their salaries in Osun State. I sympathize with them, and I pray that they have their salaries. But I also sympathize with those who have not received their salaries in 30 states of the Federation, including Ondo State, where they have also not received salary for the past 6 months. And a new governor is now having the unenviable task of mopping up that liability. So it is not only Osun, that's what I'm saying. So actually my conclusion is that development is extremely very expensive, very costly, very painful. This is the sowing period for Osun, and it behoves on patriots in this state to just see it as that. Just as the US was built on the pains, sweat, and even death of the black Americans. I thank you. May the Lord bless the state.
Thank you very much. Well, been very wonderful edition of the program here today. We've looked at the NIETI report on the debt, profile of some of these states now. Osun, here has been our main focus. Osun is said to be the third, in that particular category, 165.91 billion. But we got some other figures here from the calculations of our guests right in the studio. Justice Olamide, Oloyede, retired justice. We thank you very much for joining us on the program this morning.
Thank you for the opportunity.
And Dr. Tunji Ogunyemi, legal practitioner, teacher of economic history at Faculty of Art of Obafemi University, also joins us right here. We appreciate you for coming on the program here today.
I can't thank you the more.
Thank you very much. On behalf of the team and the executive producer, Femi Adefila, my name is Femi Olani Pekun. Thanking you so much for listening. Asking you to have a great day. Bye-bye.